Is this the defining moment of the season for Ferrari? Can Frédéric Vasseur turn around one of the Scuderia's most frustrating situations in recent years? The Japanese Grand Prix is coming with pressure for Maranello, and the weight of expectations now falls on a car that promises far more than it has delivered. And be careful, because what we're going to tell you today reveals the technical ins and outs of the SF-25, the behind-the-scenes development plan, and how Ferrari is going all out at Suzuka. If you want to understand what's really going on with the red team and what this means for the entire season, stay until the end. Because what happens in Japan could define not only the future of the car, but also the 2025 project itself. One of the most discussed and strategic changes has been the implementation of a pull rod front suspension, a setup that breaks with the classic pushrod configuration that Ferrari had used for years. This choice is not only innovative within the team's DNA, but also has direct implications for the management of aerodynamic flow through the underbody of the car. Specifically, this change was designed to improve the efficiency of the air channel to the side pods, floor, and diffuser, critical areas for the overall performance of a modern single-seater. It's no coincidence that this same philosophy has been applied by Red Bull with great success since 2022, and Ferrari has finally decided to jump on the bandwagon. What's intriguing is that, despite these innovations, the SF-25 has displayed extremely inconsistent performance. The car behaves as if it has two personalities, a fast and dominant one in qualifying or sprint race conditions, as Hamilton demonstrated in Shanghai, and a much more complicated and erratic one when wear, fuel load, and the full context of a Sunday Grand Prix come into play. This type of inconsistency is precisely what Frédéric Vasseur is trying to resolve. But to do so, he must fully understand whether the car has a structural problem or simply a tuning problem. The SF-25 isn't just a single-seater with new parts. It's a distinct technical and philosophical concept that seeks to lay the foundations for Ferrari's future in the upcoming hybrid era. But that commitment comes at a cost: time, patience, and a surgical ability to detect where the whole thing is failing. Because if the soul of the car has been redesigned, now we need to find a way to harmonize it with the body of an entire season of high demands. And that challenge begins or collapses in Japan. To understand why the SF-25 has failed to translate its potential into consistent results, we must look beyond the surface. Because what appears to be a car with a competitive foundation is completely transformed under certain race conditions. And that change is not the result of chance. It is the direct result of a series of technical challenges that Ferrari has yet to master, the most critical of which is the unstable behavior of the car's rear end. The SF-25's Achilles heel lies in its rear suspension and, more specifically, how it behaves when the car is fueled for a full race. In this context, the car suffers from a phenomenon known as squat, i.e. excessive rear end sagging when accelerating out of corners. This behavior not only compromises the car's overall balance but has also led to more serious problems such as abnormal wear on the lower plank, the famous plank, which in Hamilton's case in China, was a direct cause for disqualification. The origin of this problem lies in the interaction between the SF-25's mechanical and aerodynamic setup. Ferrari has opted for a progressive stiffness spring system, which should, in theory, offer a good combination of comfort and performance. But what they discovered on track is that this solution doesn't provide the necessary support under fully loaded conditions. The springs don't respond as firmly as expected, resulting in erratic chassis behavior, especially when maximum traction is required when exiting slow or medium-speed corners. This lack of rear support has knock-on effects that ripple throughout the car. First, it causes severe understeer, which not only makes cornering more difficult but also deteriorates front tire performance more quickly. Second, it creates a load imbalance that affects the lower aerodynamics, increasing ground contact with the track and, consequently, accelerating floorboard wear. This is where the technical circle closes, explaining not only the loss of race pace but also Hamilton's penalty in Shanghai. And while Ferrari has acknowledged this pattern of behavior, fixing it isn't as simple as replacing a part or readjusting a few bolts. It's a complex interaction between how the suspension is set up, how the aerodynamics respond, and how all of this varies as the car burns fuel during the race. Simply put, the SF-25 behaves one way during qualifying and a very different way on Sunday, making each Grand Prix a difficult mystery to solve. The most worrying thing about all this is that these problems didn't arise unexpectedly. Already during pre-season testing in Bahrain, Ferrari experienced difficulties completing full race simulations with Hamilton, which limited its database for developing the optimal car setup. In other words, Ferrari came into the season with a partial understanding of how the SF-25 would perform under real-world conditions. And now, with each race, They are uncovering pieces of a puzzle they should have put together long before. In short, the SF-25 has speed, but lacks stability. It has innovation, but not consistency. And above all, it has a deep problem with its rear axle that not only compromises performance but has also jeopardized the credibility of Ferrari's 2025 technical project. Solving this Achilles heel isn't just a matter of points. It's a matter of survival for a team that can't afford to continue failing at the basics. Suzuka isn't just one of the most challenging tracks on the Formula One calendar. It's a circuit that acts as a pure X-ray of a car's performance. Each of its corners, from the rapid changes of direction at the S's to the brutal lateral loading at 130R, demands a level of balance and precision that very few single-seaters manage to master. And that's precisely why Ferrari has chosen this track as the key location to test the true nature of the SF-25. After the chaos in China, both sportingly and technically, Ferrari couldn't afford to arrive in Japan without answers. The 2 weeks between the two Grands Prix became a parallel sprint in Maranello. During that time, the technical team went all out in the simulator, testing at least 20 different car configurations, searching for a combination that stabilizes the rear end without compromising aerodynamic efficiency. Most interestingly, Ferrari has made a strategic decision, not to advance any of the major updates planned for Bahrain. In other words, what we'll see at Suzuka won't be a structurally modified Ferrari, but rather a millimeter-optimized SF-25 in its base configuration. This reveals a clear approach. Before adding new parts, you have to fully understand what you're already working on. Because if the car remains inconsistent with its original package, any update risks amplifying errors rather than correcting them. The modifications Ferrari will bring to Japan are subtle but crucial. There's talk of a new design for the bump stops, those end-of-travel stops that control extreme suspension movement. Adjustments to the rear springs are also being considered, both in terms of stiffness and progressiveness, to avoid the famous squat that has been compromising the car's stability in the race. All of this points to a very specific goal: keeping the car as flat as possible during acceleration and lateral support, without sacrificing traction or grip during corner entry and exit. And while the focus is on the suspension, Ferrari has also worked on more delicate aspects, almost invisible at first glance. The SF-25's microaerodynamics, those small appendages and deflectors that shape the airflow, have been refined in specific areas of the car. These aren't large wings or flashy solutions, but rather surgical adjustments that can have a major impact on aerodynamic stability, especially on circuits as technical as Suzuka. Another eye-opening element is the software update on Lewis Hamilton's steering wheel. This new interface allows for a more precise display of engine mapping, giving the driver more control over power delivery in different race modes. It's a step toward greater handling customization, although, curiously, this tool has yet to be implemented on Charles Leclerc's car, which could raise new questions within the team about technical fairness and development priority. In short, Japan will be a test with no margin for error. Ferrari has set out to use this race as an open-air laboratory, where each lap will serve as a controlled experiment to validate or discard internal theories about the SF-25's performance. The goal isn't just to score points or minimize damage, it's to leave Suzuka with certainties. Because only with certainties can a solid campaign be built in a championship that has already shown its teeth since the opening round. And if these solutions pay off, the team will arrive in Bahrain with a much firmer foundation on which to build the real updates. But if not, then the problem will be deeper. And Japan will cease to be an opportunity, and become a warning sign that not even Vasseur will be able to ignore. Formula One isn't just about winning the next Grand Prix. It's about building a project that is sustainable, competitive, and adaptable to the changes to come. And in that sense, Ferrari finds itself at a particularly complex crossroads. Because while it fights to make up ground in a 2025 championship that has already started off on an uphill climb, it must also lay the groundwork for what will be one of the most significant technical changes in the sport's recent history: the regulatory revolution of 2026. Frédéric Vasseur knows this. His engineers know it. And so do his rivals. Every decision made today about the SF-25 has a double meaning. Not only is it being evaluated whether it's useful for winning races this year, but also whether it fits into a broader vision, in light of the new regulations that will completely change the design of cars, the architecture of power units, and the way fuel efficiency is understood in F1. That's why Ferrari has chosen not to rush into major updates. Despite internal and external pressure to react urgently after the errors in China, the team has decided to stick to the original development schedule. The most important package will arrive in Bahrain as planned. And that date will not be postponed, not because of a lack of ambition, but because a deep understanding of the car is needed before introducing variables that could completely alter its balance. This approach is no coincidence. Ferrari is applying a progressive development philosophy, seeking to fully understand each change before adding the next. It's not just about avoiding errors like those seen with plank wear or rear-end instability. It's about extracting information that can be reused. Because every simulation, every track session, and every technical modification to the SF-25 also feeds into the database on which the 2026 car will be built. And here comes a key strategic aspect: resources. F1's current financial regulations impose strict spending limits, forcing teams to allocate their investments wisely. Bringing forward an upgrade package may seem like a tempting short-term solution, but it could also mean subtracting hours of wind tunnel time, CFD simulations, or budget from next year's car. In a context where every detail counts, such a decision can have a dangerous domino effect. Furthermore, the situation in the Constructors' Championship cannot be ignored. Ferrari currently sits in a disappointing 5th place, 61 points behind the surprising leader, McLaren. This means that every race without solid results increases the pressure on the team to fight a comeback. But Vasseur, with a long-term vision, has chosen to protect the master plan rather than sacrifice it for immediate solutions. The message is clear. It's not just about recovering positions in 2025, but about not mortgaging future competitiveness in the attempt. There's an obvious tension between what's urgent and what's important. And that tension defines every decision Ferrari makes right now. The team is forced to operate in 2 phases, solving the technical problems of the present without compromising the conceptual architecture of the 2026 car. Because if modern F1 has learned anything, it's that seasons are won with vision, not with patches. And at Maranello, despite the external noise demanding immediate results, the focus is on not falling back into the mistake of building fast cars, but with no future. The SF-25 is then more than just a competitive car for this season. It's a bridge, a testing ground, a living data bank for Ferrari's new technical chapter. The question is no longer just whether this car can win races. The more important question is whether it can help build the car that will return the prancing horse to the top in 2026. Because to win championships again, you must first gain knowledge. And that's the real trophy Ferrari is seeking right now. After analyzing each piece of the puzzle, it's clear that Ferrari isn't simply facing a performance crisis on the track. It's undergoing a moment of profound redefinition as a team. The SF-25 is the tangible reflection of an ambitious, courageous, but risky change of direction. And at this point in the season, every race is an assessment, not just of the car, but of the entire project that Frédéric Vasseur has put in place since his arrival. What happens at Suzuka can't be seen as just another weekend. This Grand Prix is, for Ferrari, a turning point. If the technical solutions applied pay off, if the car manages to perform consistently in the race, and if the strategic interventions begin to have an impact, then the team can claim to have taken the first step toward truly rebuilding its competitiveness. But if not, the message will be the opposite, that even with an almost complete redesign, they haven't been able to break the cycle of frustration that has marked their last decade. In this context, Vasseur's role takes on a significance that goes beyond the sporting aspect. His leadership is being tested not only in terms of results, but also in his ability to maintain the cohesion of a group that needs to regain confidence, credibility, and a vision for the future. He is managing engineers under pressure, drivers who are beginning to show frustration, and a media environment that doesn't forgive even an inch of weakness. But he is also building something deeper, a new DNA for Ferrari. One that isn't based solely on nostalgia for the glory days, but on rigorous technical analysis, meticulous planning, and a modern understanding of what it means to compete at the highest level in today's Formula One. We saw it throughout this video. A car redesigned from the ground up, technical issues that reveal flaws in data integration and interpretation, a development approach based on understanding, not knee-jerk reaction, and an eye always on the farthest finish line, the 2026 revolution. Ferrari is playing a game on several boards at once, and the margin for error shrinks with each Grand Prix. So the big question remains, will Ferrari manage to right its course in time to compete for more than dignity in 2025? Or will this be yet another chapter in an eternal reconstruction that never quite materializes?